Good morning. Welcome to King's Report News Hour. For this is Thursday, the 10th year, 15th year of Chungi, the 11th month, and the 5th day by the heavenly calendar. All those numbers get mixed up in my mind. 11th month and 5th day by the heavenly calendar. And Tim Miller sitting in for the second king of Moon. And let's go to the places where the king has established the Choning flag and see what is going on there right now. In Chongpyeong, Tennessee, it is 43 degrees. And let's see here. Clear skies right now, 43 and clear. 34. Wait a second, what? 43 degrees, but a high of 34. Okay, not exactly sure how that works, but it looks like the temperature is going to be falling, right? Okay, now temperature is going to be falling throughout the day. 43 now, but it's going to go 8 a.m. 41, 9 a.m. 38, 10 a.m. 36. So the temperature will be falling through the day, getting down to 29, 26, 29 at 4 p.m., 26 at 5 p.m., 25 at 6 p.m., and et cetera, et cetera. So, so a high of 34 today. And tonight, clear and very cold. Extended time outside can lead to hypothermia. Low of 15 tonight. Okay, low of 15 tonight. My goodness. Yeah. And then tomorrow, a high again of 34. So to get back up to 34, barely above freezing. But no snow, though. That's always, I always feel ripped off, when it's really, really cold, but there's no snow. It's going to be cold, let there be snow, right? Meanwhile, in northeast Pennsylvania, at the Chunning Palace, high of 30, currently 31, with light snow. That's good at least. And then a high of 39 today, mostly cloudy and windy with snow showers with little or no accumulation. And tonight, a low of 24, areas of no clouds and windy tonight. Then down in Texas, Limestone County, Texas, at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground, currently 51 degrees, mostly cloudy. And remaining mostly cloudy today, a high of 61. Tonight, cloudy and chilly, low of 34. High in one place is the low in another place. And then at the Suncheon Palace in Korea, currently 38 degrees and clear skies, low tonight of 34 under partly cloudy skies. Tomorrow, sunshine and a few clouds, high of 52. And then at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, currently 48 and clear. Snow late Saturday night, it says here, okay, over just a 2-hour period though. And then low of 37 tonight, a shower in the area in the evening. And tomorrow, high of 58. All right, let's go to Father's Word. And a very interesting passage today. Father speaking here August 31st, 1969. When the time comes, when the time comes, the age in which we assert our own positions will pass away. The age will come when no one can say that they are number one. From that time, it will be a communal world. In other words, coexistence, co-prosperity, and universally shared values. And so, for that reason, the Unification Church is coexistence, it is co-prosperity, and we claim, we assert universally shared values. Kong-ui is a word that has been translated in various ways. Co-righteousness, I think, was one attempt. Common righteousness, universally shared values, I think it maybe comes closest. But the Father, in describing the kingdom of heaven on earth, says a kong sen, kong young, kong ui. So you have kong in front of each one of them, and kong means common or together, or something like that. And so kong seng means life. So together life, kong young, together prosperity, kong ui, together righteousness. And coexistence and co-prosperity translate pretty easily, but together righteousness doesn't translate quite so easily. I think universally shared values may be the best that we can do. Right? And then the final sentence in the paragraph, he says, that world cannot be established by any one person. So you have to work together. In other words, you have to work together. Praise God for the word that he has given us. Yeah. Father described Korean as an Adamic language. In other words, the language of Adam, and he described English as archangelic language, the language of archangel. Now, being an archangel is not a bad thing, all right? Because God created archangels. Remember, He created 3 of them. Apparently, in the Catholic Church, there are more than 3. But anyway, in Protestant Church, where I come from, and also where Father comes from, 3 archangels: Lucifer, Michael, and Gabriel. Now, the archangels are necessary. The archangels helped God to create the world, and so also they are supposed to help Adam to establish God's kingdom on earth. And unfortunately, one of those 3 has caused a problem. But it's going to work out. It's going to work out eventually, as soon as we accomplish our portions of responsibility. Yes. Yeah. All right. In the morning Hundoke in Korean, we just got through a reading about the portion of responsibility, and their Father stated very clearly that a portion of responsibility is given to human beings. In other words, not to the archangel. The archangel doesn't have a portion of responsibility. The archangel does what he is told. And anyway, so Adam straightens up and flies right, then the archangel will have to follow him. All right. So let's see what is going on today in the world. And the situation in Korea. Let's see. Here we go. U.S. officials are coming out now and giving their take on it. Let's take a look at it. And I think I want to take a look at it, but then point out some shallowness, shall we say, in what they're saying. The U.S., democracy is the end all and the be all. And that is not necessarily the best way to look at the world, I believe. The U.S. says South Korea's President Yoon badly misjudged the martial law decree. Well, that part I would say was okay. I agree with that. He certainly misjudged something. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell said Wednesday that South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol badly misjudged his decision to declare martial law this week, calling the move deeply problematic and illegitimate. I think it's unfortunate that the U.S. would make a judgment like this, especially the word illegitimate. Basically, by using that word, he is already involving himself in South Korean politics. Because right now, the situation is that unsurprisingly, the opposition now is moving to impeach him. And I'm sure they will succeed. And I think they were going to, as far as I remember, they were going to hold an impeachment vote and impeach him. Let's see, is the Zoom working correctly right now? I'm not sure it is, but anyway, we'll go forward. I think day after tomorrow, in other words, on Saturday, I think they were going to make an impeachment vote. And then I already described the course of events that we can expect after that. I described that yesterday. After an event organized by the Aspen Strategy Forum, whether it was an intelligence failure that the U.S. was caught unaware by a key ally, Campbell said almost all U.S. interlocutors in South Korea, including in the president's office were deeply surprised by Yoon's move. Yoon's declaration of emergency martial law Tuesday night was accompanied by a pledge to eliminate shameless North Korea followers and anti-state forces at a single stroke, according to the Associated Press. And quite frankly, the president was correct. President Yoon is correct that the opposition includes many anti-state actors. In other words, people who are committed to undermining South Korea. And so the US is saying that the failure of the martial law was a victory for democracy. This has been said in other places. But in reality, President Yoon was making a last-ditch and desperate effort to prevent South Korea from coming under the subjugation, under the subjugation of North Korea. And I think that history will bear this out. Someone might say, well, what is your proof? Well, what is your evidence? Well, if you follow what's been going on in South Korea, if you follow the statements of the opposition leader, Chae Myung-lee, who may very well be the next president to be elected perhaps as early as February next year, you can see what I mean. If Chae Myung-lee becomes president, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I expect that South Korea will come much closer to North Korea, centering on the North Korean ideology. At the beginning of this year, Kim Jong-un said that his government would no longer seek a peaceful unification with South Korea, and instead he would seek subjugation and dominance over South Korea. And with Chae Myung-lee as president, I fully expect that South Korea will make long strides in that direction. And so the defeat of the martial law will lead to that. And so in that sense, then, the failure of the martial law, you could say, closed the last hope for democracy and freedom to continue in South Korea. Remember, communists have their own definition of and own idea of democracy. North Korea refers to itself as a democratic republic, DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They claim to be democratic, and under their definition, they are democratic. But under the communist definition of democracy, the people are required to support the party, the Communist Party. In North Korea, it's called the Workers' Party, but it's the Communist Party. So the Biden administration, not surprisingly perhaps, because Biden administration itself seeks to undermine freedom in America. And so they have no problem with someone like Chae Myung-lee in South Korea seeking to undermine freedom in South Korea or in any other place, in any other country, or Xi Jinping undermining freedom in China, for example. He vowed to protect the country from falling into the depths of national ruin. And unfortunately, he was correct, and unfortunately now that is where South Korea is headed, the depths of national ruin, if it continues to go in this direction. Yoon, conservative, cited repeated attempts by his liberal rivals to control the parliament to impeach his top officials and curtail key parts of his budget bill for next year. Parliament overturned the edict, and Yoon's rivals on Wednesday took steps to impeach him. Yes, they began steps on Wednesday, and from what I've seen, I think they want to impeach him Saturday evening, I believe. And they say they want to impeach him before he has a chance to declare another emergency martial law. So things are going from bad to worse in South Korea. And after the impeachment, after the failed martial law, the left has gathered, large rallies, and they are rallying around the country for the president to step down or for him to be impeached and so forth. And they're calling for blood. And I think he will be lucky if imprisonment is the only punishment that he receives from the left. The record in South Korea is that almost all presidents have either been chased into exile, killed, as in the case of Park Chung-hee, he was assassinated, or exiled into a mountain temple, as was the case with Chun Doo-hwan, or put in prison, as the case with Park Chung-hee, Park Geun-hye, or somehow, one president actually committed suicide after he stepped down, after his term ended. So I'm not sure why anyone wants to be a president of South Korea. It's what shall I say? The retirement benefits are not very good. Shall I put it that way? After you step down, nothing good seems to happen. And unfortunately, President Yoon, perhaps ironically, President Yoon had a major role in bringing down President Park Geun-hye. And so maybe what goes around comes around in this case. Anyway, but rather than worrying about the personal situation of President Yoon, we should be worried about the national situation of South Korea, how that is going to go. But Father emphasized the importance of the Korean Peninsula being unified under his authority, under Father's authority. And we'll see how that goes. I think it likely will move towards unification under a leftist president, but it will be a unification under the authority of the North Korean government. And so we will watch and see how that happens. Right now, Christians in South Korea are also rallying, and they are rallying to support President Yoon. And we will have to see how far that actually goes. So yes, of course, then in Europe as well, we have France, the government collapsing there, and we'll see what happens there. But apparently, France is in economic trouble, and now I think the BBC, or who was it, the EU, or who was it coming out now and saying that EU is in trouble because it lacks leadership, and no one can provide leadership to the European Union right now, because Germany is not in a position to provide leadership. This is actually France, the France 24, a French outlet writing in English, fortunately. And so the EU is also shaky. And so things are moving in interesting directions as we go into 2025. Let's look at this EU story. Want me to accept? Okay. EU in uncharted territory. Can you see it yet? Maybe not. Okay, now I guess you can. Okay. Neither France nor Germany able to provide the leadership Europe needs. Okay. EU functions better when leaders, France, Germany, act in concert. But Europe now is in a holding pattern. That's interesting because the situation in Ukraine is going on, and really Ukraine depends on the unity of the West to stand behind it, and that may not be happening in the near to midterm. Michel Barnier has now become the shortest serving prime minister in France's Fifth Republic and the first prime minister to be ousted by parliament in over 6 decades, and so forth and so on. Here, I guess this is a video, isn't it? Okay. Well, we don't want to go there. They don't like us to play videos. We don't want to do that. Okay. But anyway, France is also collapsing, and so the EU is now leaderless. Let's see now. We have an interview today, which is, I believe, about 16 minutes or so long, and so we'll cover that a little bit later on in the broadcast. And let's see here. Now, President Trump's cabinet formation is continuing. Some hiccups here and there. I don't know if Hegseth is actually going to make it. Defense, and more, it looks like DeSantis is going maybe sort of a plan B in that score. Unfortunate that President Trump is sort of having these hiccups. I would hope that his staff could be a little more competent, shall we say, in bringing things, because it's important that he show competence to the American people. We need him to really hit the ground running when January 20th comes along, and we need for his approval rating to increase among the American people, so that he can go into the midterm elections in 2026 with a very strong hand and increase the number of Republican seats in the House, not lose any seats, but increase the seats. And that would be going against the historical pattern. And so it's going to take some effort. And so let's pray that his staff in Mar-a-Lago can do their job and vet these people beforehand, so that these kinds of problems don't come out later on and catch people by surprise. There was this assassination kind of that happened in Manhattan this week, where the CEO of a United Healthcare was killed as he was going into a hotel in Midtown Manhattan. And I was ignoring the situation, but then it turns out that he actually was under Department of Justice investigation for possible insider trading. In other words, the Department of Justice announced an investigation into United Healthcare, and he and other executives of United Healthcare sold millions of dollars worth of shares just prior to the announcement of that investigation, or not just prior to, but at least a couple of weeks prior to, a week or so, or a couple of weeks prior to. So it could be that this assassination was related to that. They don't know yet, but it seems though that is a possibility. And people like Nancy Pelosi, they do insider trading all the time. Members of Congress do it all the time, because when they passed the law against insider trading, they exempted themselves. And this is often pointed out. It's pointed out many times as a prime example of the corruption that goes on in Washington, D.C. People go to Washington, and not every case, but many cases, they become rich after going to Washington. And it's because, well, we have to say that, they are doing insider trading. And there's even a website that will help you track Nancy Pelosi's buying and selling, so that whatever it is that she's doing based on insider information, you can do it too. And you can look it up. I'm not in the market, so I haven't bothered to look it up. But apparently it's possible to track her sales and purchases. And she has the best record, apparently, of almost anyone in the country. It's a pretty amazing how well she does in her stock choices. Not everyone does that. Not everyone is guilty of that, for sure. Some people go there poor and remain poor, or they don't significantly increase their net worth while they are in Washington. But that's a pretty rare situation. And the Biden family is probably the most egregious of these. Maybe the most egregious of all, along with Nancy Pelosi, with the Pelosi husband and wife, but also Biden's. And the Bidens, of course, have been taking money from Ukraine, taking money from other places, from China, most obviously, with their son Hunter being the bag man. And now that he has pardoned his son is not going to be prosecuted. It was given 10 years. Anything that you did or anything that you may have done, anything that may come to light in the future, you are pardoned of all those things, all those things. Wow. Well, the Bidens do claim to be Catholic, I suppose. But hey, it's an even better deal because I think, he didn't even have to go to confession to get this pardon. He didn't have to recite a single Hail Mary in order to get this pardon. So it's an even better deal than what the Catholics give you in confession. But it's been pointed out, of course, that now he no longer can claim Fifth Amendment protection. The Fifth Amendment protects you from incriminating yourself. But since Hunter cannot be prosecuted for anything that he did, may have done, might have done, anything within that 10-year period, then when investigations are carried on for other Biden family members, and they call Hunter to testify or to give a deposition, to give testimony, he cannot say, "Oh, I claim the Fifth." No, he cannot do that. He no longer has Fifth Amendment protection for anything that was illegal under federal law. Now, under state law, that's different. For example, if he murdered someone, then murder is generally not a federal crime, it's a state crime in general, unless he murdered a federal officer or something like that. So he's not protected there. But anything that is illegal under federal statutes, such as corruption, such as money laundering, these kinds of things, he cannot be prosecuted for that. But he can be called to testify for other members of his family. And so some people are expecting that Biden will soon announce pardons for other members of the family and other people who are connected to Hunter Biden. And so we will have to wait and see. That may come not this month, but it may even come in January, close to the end of his term. But certainly the Biden family will go down in history as one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt, political family that America has had to endure. And we still have people like Whoopi Goldberg, trying to defend him and stuff like that, and all sorts of things. But and as we go towards the midterm election, I think it's important that these things come out so that Democrats can see how corrupt their leadership has been. There are a bunch of good people in the Democratic Party, right? Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat until recently. RFK Jr. was a Democrat until recently, until becoming a MAGA party member. I don't even want to say MAGA Republican. It's a MAGA party Republican. It's a completely different Republican Party than what existed before. And he may also, by the way, President Biden may also pardon Liz Cheney for whatever she may have done, because she is also suspected of destroying evidence that would have helped people who are now in jail for the January 6th, 2021 situation. So she may be pardoned as well by Biden. And so all sorts of controversial pardons are coming down the pike, I'm sure. And we will be shocked by them, but we will not be surprised by them. Okay. All right, let's see here. It's a situation with in New York with a Marine who is being tried for what he did on the um, subway. Let's take a look at this. Daniel Penny. Let's take a look at this story. It's at the jury now. We haven't covered this before on the King's Report. Okay, come on now. Okay. Daniel Penny is the guy's name, and let's see what exactly he did. Penny is accused of recklessly and negligently killing Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with schizophrenia who was high on drugs and shouting death threats at subway passengers, telling them someone was going to die today and that he didn't care about going to prison for life. And he grabbed him from behind in a chokehold to stop the outburst. Okay, but then it wound up that this 30-year-old man with schizophrenia wound up dying. So apparently he had a chokehold on him and blocked his airwaves long enough that the man actually died. Neely had an active, that's the man who died, Neely had an active arrest warrant at the time of his death. He was high on K2, a synthetic marijuana drug that functions as a stimulant, and his lengthy criminal record included a 2021 assault on a 67-year-old woman at another subway station. And so there's a lot of public opinion in favor of this Marine, saying that he did what the city should have been doing. In fact, even Mayor Adams came out and kind of in support of him and saying that, well, he took the man off the street that the city should have been taking off the street long before. And then the jury has been looking at this now, and they are looking at this. And People's Exhibit 36A is one of the pieces of evidence that they've asked to see again. Daniel Penny waived his Miranda rights and sat down with the NYPD after remaining on scene after the incident. Detectives Michael Medina and Brian McCarthy interviewed him at the 5th Precinct building in Manhattan for about 25 minutes. And I think that was a bit naive of Daniel Penny. As people who are prepared to exercise Second Amendment rights, we are told by lawyers to be careful about this and cooperate and be respectful, but not answer questions before your lawyer arrives on the scene. They did not inform him Neely had died. So, and police are allowed to lie, and in this case, withhold information. That's entirely legal. But now he waived his Miranda rights and sat down with the NYPD after remaining on the scene of the incident. So it was good that he remained on the scene of the incident, but certainly he should have waited for a lawyer to arrive or to be in the presence of a lawyer before he started answering questions. That was unfortunately his naive mistake. He was talking gibberish, but these guys are pushing people in front of the trains and stuff, he told detectives. There were more than 20 subway shoves in a year before Penny's encounter with Neely. Penny did not testify at trial, so his interrogation is the only firsthand commentary shown to the jury in court. Some guy came in and he's like, with his jacket off, and he's like, I'm going to kill everybody. I'm going to go to prison forever. I don't care, Penny said. He said he exchanged looks with the person next to him and asked the person to hold his phone. He took his earbuds out, then he grabbed Neely from behind in a headlock. I just kind of like grabbed him from behind, he said. One of the detectives interrupted, because he was acting like a lunatic, like a crazy person, Penny continued. And he was rolling around on the floor. And at that point, the train stopped. I was like, someone called the cops, and he's still like rolling around, still going crazy. You don't want to say someone called the cops, because if you say someone, then no one will call the cops. I think the advice that experts give is you know, tell a particular person, you call the cops. I want you to call the cops. Use your phone and dial 911 now. And then there's a higher possibility that the cops will actually be called. I had two other guys kind of help me just kind of keep him from going nuts. And yeah, that's when you guys came. The interrogation video was brought into evidence November 14th. People's Exhibit 12, it was taken by journalist Juan Alberto Vasquez, who was on the train during the incident. It was the full video he took that day, which includes images that have been circulating publicly since May 2023. Jurors saw the video played repeatedly during the expert testimony. It shows Neely and Penny on the floor of the train car and another man named Eric Gonzalez holding Neely's arms during the struggle, so forth and so on. And then the NYPD body cam, where he says he was threatening everybody who came up to the train. And he says, explaining he didn't know whether Neely had any weapons, but placed him in a chokehold. I guess the jurors are trying to decide whether he used, whether the amount of force that he used was appropriate. But a lot of people are saying, yeah, he did a good thing for us. He's a hero. And he may be a hero, but we need to be smart if we ever do something like this. We do need to be smart and not be naive. All right, tell you what, we have about 24 minutes left, but let's go to the interview now. And this is Richard Battle, author of Americans Who Made America, 18th Century Birth of the Republic, which was published not too long ago. All right, so cue the interview, please.
It's my pleasure to welcome Richard Battle. He's an author and speaker. We've had you on the show before, and we want to ask your advice, Mr. Battle, about how not to battle on Thanksgiving during the Thanksgiving dinner and have an enjoyable experience. Welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Richard. Thank you so much for having us back with you again. And it's very great to have Thanksgiving week this week, although I believe we should be thankful every day, and have had some experiences that have reinforced my opinion about that.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you're making a really important point. You know, usually sometimes I'm in a grumpy mood and kind of complaining, and then I see somebody who has life a lot worse than I do, and then I say, boy, Richard, you're really ungrateful. SOB, you should be more grateful.
Well, that's exactly the case. And even though I've had worse situations than this, 8 years ago, on the Monday before Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I ended up having a heart stent put in and was let out of the hospital on Thanksgiving Eve. And that was my best Thanksgiving ever. But I started the habit that I like to, before I go to bed at night, just kind of reflect on the day. And it's amazing how many times I can see God's hand in providing me things that I didn't try to do. It wasn't on my to-do list. It wasn't one of my goals, but it's amazing if we just stop and look a little bit how we can find things to be thankful for.
So how do we avoid having those really acrimonious debates at Thanksgiving where hopefully not violent, but you know, some people they feel very strongly about these issues, political differences, recent election, for instance. How can you avoid having hopefully not a violent interchange, but at least an angry one?
Well, to take part of Churchill's saying, in victory, magnanimity, I think for we who were on the winning side of the election, we have to be very low key and not put it in anybody's face and not talk about it. And we have to deflect any initial negative comments, I think, that can come our way, and not reply in a way that starts or ignites a disagreement, because the first blow, how you respond to the first blow, is the key to the whole incident, in my opinion.
Right, that's a good point. I remember 4 years ago when Mr. Biden was elected or chosen, and I remember thinking, well, I did not vote for him. I'm not happy about the way the election was conducted, but he is the president, and I pray that he'll do a good job. And because he is the president of the entire country, whether we're happy or not.
Well, that's exactly correct. And there's been several elections in my lifetime that didn't go the way I wanted. And we have to remember that we're United States. We don't all agree. That's part of freedom, is disagreeing sometimes, but how we handle those disagreements are important. I think there is an opportunity for unity in the country. And why do I think that? Because I look back after the Civil War. 600,000 men gave their lives fighting for their beliefs, and those disagreements were long and bitterly held. And the result of that war and everything was a division. But yet the country was brought back together by statesmen who realized it was important to reunify. And I think that opportunity's there. I think it was missed in this current administration because they would say unity, but then they would initiate policies that were divisive. And if you're going to speak about unity, the policies have to be about all Americans, not specific groups.
Right. Well, I'm glad that I will no longer be accused of being a domestic terrorist. I
Well, yes, because I used to always think of myself as pretty middle of the road, at least in the prior debates from the politics from one party versus the other. But
right.
I don't think I ever moved, but the media seemed to have moved me into a different category.
Yeah, that's right. And I thought it's pretty interesting how the supporters of Donald Trump this election were not just Republicans. I mean, there were some very prominent Democrats who came over to support his candidacy. So maybe there is common ground.
Well, yes, and I think there's encouragement in that. But as I stated long before the election, I don't think this election was a normal Democrat versus Republican. I think it was much more a globalist agenda versus a nationalist agenda. And so that reordered the coalitions, if you will, and brought different people together who believed in nationalism versus the globalism, or who are making a living off of the government.
That's right. We had the Radhavarn Freedom Festival last month, and we had 300 visitors from Japan and also Korea, and they sang the Battle Hymn of the Republic and God Bless America, and it was pretty moving, I have to say, to see that they, I mean, we were in a war with them, right? 70
Well,
years
we have to
ago.
remember
Yeah.
our Constitution is the longest serving governing document in the world right now.
Right.
The principles it was founded on are still superior to any other government in history as well. It's our execution of those principles that have caused the problems. And one of the things that just amazes me, and as I researched my latest book, Americans Who Made America, it was how the founders came together and put aside their differences and individual interest to write the Declaration, fight an 8-year war, and create the Constitution, and put that into our foundation. And then once all that was done, then they went out and started pushing for their selfish personal interest again. And so to me, that was Providence working in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem that when you're in a war, you really don't care who's in your foxhole, as long as he can shoot, right? in the right direction. But after the war is over, you're free to argue. and so I mean war, I mean, as horrible as it is, war does draw out, or can draw out, an amazing level of sacrifice, for a higher purpose, right?
Well, yes, and as the quote, who I can't remember who said it, war is diplomacy by other means.
Right,
And so, of course, we don't want that around the globe or
right.
civilly, either one right now. And I think and hope that President Trump succeeds. I hope that every time there's a success, that it's shared with the public, saying, here's what we did, here's how it's in the public's best interest. Because I think if that happens and there are multiple successes, that will reinforce the election, and it will make people feel better about the country going forward, that we're on the right track. And I saw that when I traveled to Charlotte for an event a week or so ago. The people's attitudes were so positive. Donald Trump's name never came up, but people were so encouraged by the potential change that we're getting ready to experience.
I hope so. And the other encouraging thing in my mind was how many Hispanic men, especially, voted for Donald Trump this time, and it's a much more of a multiracial coalition that supported him, and young men and people of different faiths. The Amish came out in Pennsylvania and voted for him, and yeah, it is hopeful. I have to say that.
One of the greatest miscalculation I believe the Democrats made was believing that Hispanics were monolithic,
Right,
and they're not.
right,
They are a great God-fearing people. They're hardworking. They're family people. I was married to a lady from Laredo, Texas for 20 years and spent a lot of time on the border there, as well as all up and down the border for business as well as pleasure over the years. The Hispanic people are a great people. They want the same things any other Americans want:
mm,
safety, pro-family policies, the government setting the stage for a good economy and an opportunity to prosper and leave our children a better world behind. And so to put all of them in a box and to think that they would vote Democrat to import more illegal aliens, most of the legal Hispanics in the country who've been here longer than the gringos in Texas, for example,
that's
are
true.
all wanting the border to be secure. They want people to come here legally, not illegally. So their viewpoint's exactly the same as most Americans.
Right. Let me ask you this. You know, we have what 10 million or more people who entered the country illegally during the past 3.5 years. And President Trump is talking about, I guess, starting out with those who have committed crimes. But do you have any thoughts about? I mean, to me, this looks like a very messy operation. I can't envision it being a very peaceful enterprise. I mean, I do know that some people are self-deporting, right? I mean, they're urging them to. I don't know if we're even helping them to buy a plane ticket to go back home, and that obviously would be the best. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, yes. And I believe there's an operation that can be done. What's interesting to me is people will be self-deporting now. When they start the program, I think they'll focus on criminals. If we adjust the payments and the welfare that we are giving now and stop that, that
Right,
will incent people to leave as well. They know that if they are caught and deported, that there's a penalty that will restrict their ability to come back.
right,
And I think that if they self-deport, there are opportunities to provide work permits for some of them to come back. And so there's all kinds of facets to this as well. But if you'll remember, when President Bush was president, the number that was always talked about was there were 12 million illegals in the country at that time.
hmm,
And I'm glad that you clarified roughly 10 million or more in the last 3.5 years. And so, if those are true, which is possible, that means we could have 20 plus million illegal aliens. And so there's a lot of ways to slice and dice this. The illegal alien problem is a national security problem, as you know. It's a financial security because just New York City spent $5 billion taking care of illegals, putting them up $400 or $500 a night in fancy hotels. And then there's a health security issue because there's been an importation of diseases that were eradicated in the US 50 years ago. And so it's a multifaceted program. It won't happen overnight, but I think that starting it and putting the effort out and any success happens will be beneficial to the country.
Yeah, obviously I think you're right. I'm thinking about the Democrat Party. I'm sure there are a lot of people who really invested many, many years of their lives to support the Democrat Party. You know, you look back, John F. Kennedy, there are people that many Americans do admire. And then to see this party endorse such a radical agenda. I mean, the transgender surgery on children and the illegal migration. I mean, there's so many policies that are really antithetical to most Americans, including Democrats. I'm pretty sure that there are a number of Democrats who must have voted for Donald Trump this time.
Well, absolutely. And what gets me, though, are the political elected officials on the Democrat side that once the election was over and they saw that they lost, all of a sudden they started saying negative things about the policies that they put in. But yet when they were on the other side of it and the policies came up, they voted with their party every time for those policies.
That's
And
right.
so they cannot escape responsibility for those. I believe they have to have responsibility for those policies that they put into place and support it. And then it'll be real interesting to see how they go forward. And there's going to have to be, I believe, a discussion of who leads the party, where it goes, and they're going to be preparing that because they're already fighting for the next election. As you see, Kamala Harris is already considering running in 28 again, which is kind of interesting that the month hasn't even passed yet.
Oh, I didn't know that. I wouldn't bet a lot of money on her being successful.
No, but I hope she tries.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I really enjoyed talking with you today. Any other topics that you'd like us to know about, or is there a website for your books?
Well, I appreciate you asking that. And my website is richardbattle.com. I have 11 books all signed there. If people want any for Christmas gifts, if they'll email me, richard@richardbattle.com, we're happy to inscribe them. They're all at Amazon, including Kindle and audio. My latest is a patriotic historical book, Americans Who Made America, 18th Century Birth of the Republic, and it celebrates the can-do spirit of America, which I think made us successful, and it's the first of a projected 4-book series.
That's great. We really do need to have good materials, especially for ourselves and to share with our children, and so they can learn about American history instead of being educated to hate their country.
Well, that's part of the reason I did this. I got sick and tired of the government telling us what we couldn't do, and the people in our history who made things happen had that can-do spirit. And so I wanted to put something out that upper middle school and up could read. They could be proud of the country, learn some history, embrace some patriotism, share it with their kids, and be pro-American. And it's not political, but it is patriotic.
Okay, well, I really highly urge our audience to go to richardbattle.com and check out all those books.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you for having us, and God bless America.
God bless America, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Likewise. Happy Thanksgiving.